Welcome to the Flying Cat Academy. This is Shauna Odette. In this video, I will be teaching you some of the tips and tricks of the trade that can keep you organized. Let's start with the binder. When I have a student, I have one binder that's my instructor binder, and I like to use a 1.5 inch or 2 inch binder as for my instructor binder. And in this binder, this is my way to keep organized for my lessons. So there are 12 dividers, and the first divider is where I keep the progression. And this is all the stuff that's going to go in the new content part of the lesson. And then when I'm teaching, when I'm making my lesson plans, I'm simply zooming in, I'm here, and I go to what the first thing on my progression tells me, and it's that in that new content, I'm going to make sure that the student knows what a consonant and a vowel are. And I'm going to make sure that the student knows all of the consonants. And then in the different parts of the lesson, in those drills that we learned, I'm going to put these consonants. So that's what will be my first card pack for my visual drill and my auditory drill. When I introduce it in that first lesson, I will record it. So it was introduced on April 25th. And what I discovered is that the student, this core survey revealed a lot of this to me. The student was not knowing the QU is Qu and L is O. But other than that, they were already getting fluency for the other ones. And then once I feel like they've mastered all of their sounds, I will write the date that that happened over here. And then in that same first lesson, I introduced the short vowel sounds, and I did that through the short vowel drill, so I marked it down here that it happened. I introduced the sight word study method on that same day. So you can see, like, I've already covered 2 pages of the progression just on that first lesson. Oh, page 3 too. In that first lesson, I introduced the syllable definition, marked it down that I introduced it, and I also introduced what the closed syllable was. And let's see if I did anything else that day. Nope, that's as far as I got. The next thing would be the consonant blends. So in your first lesson, you might get as far as page 3 with quite a few students. Some students will take longer than others to move through the progression, and that's just the way it is. The next section I have is called drills, and this is where I keep all of the drills that the student is going to need. And when it's time to do the lesson, I take the drills out and I spread them across the table. So here are the drills that I spread across the top of the table. There's the short vowel drill, the phonemic awareness drill, the auditory drill, the blending drill, and then syllable pounding, which I usually do in the quick check part of the lesson. You can see that I'm missing sight words, and that'll be the first page in that space that I left. So sight words I keep in a different part of my binder, and I'll take that out now and put it on the table. Now I've added my sight word section to my left side because it's my very first drill that I'm going to do with my students. And I have 2 pages on the table. The first one is the sight word study method steps, because that's going to tell me the steps to use to teach the student a new word. And then I'm going to have my 100 most frequently used sight word sheet. And this is what it looks like when you're already working with a student. So in my first lesson with this student, I would read the word the, and I would ask the student to spell the word the. And she spelled that correctly. So I just took my highlighter and I highlighted the word the, and I know that I don't have to deal with that one. And then I kept going down the list. Spell the word of. And she did it. She spelled and correctly. To, in, is, you, that, it, he, was, for, on, are, is, was, with, his, and finally we got one that she didn't know. They. So that was the first sight word that I circled because she didn't know they. And then I would write the word. I've got my black marker here already. I would write the word they on the card. And then I would go through the sight word study method to teach her the word they. And that would become her first sight word. And this student, I've had four lessons with her. And on the second sheet, we did find quite a few that she didn't know. But for that first section, she knew a lot of the most common ones. And I would look for For her, we'd try to keep out like 5 or 6 words in the rotation. And so I would keep a copy of a card that had her words on it, which would be they, by, words, what, and were. And she would keep a copy because she wants to have her own little cards that she can take home to practice. And then the next time she comes to the lesson, I'll have her read those words on the cards, and then I'll take the cards and I will have her spell them in her book. And if there's any ones that cause some difficulty for her, then we will take a marker and probably highlight the letter that's causing the problem. Or maybe we'll make a keyword card as a blocking method too. When she gets it right, after writing it in her book, she gets a little check mark on the side of the card. And when she feels like she's mastered it, then she gets what used to be circled is now one that I will highlight, and on we go looking for the next new word. And that's how that one works. The next drill in the line is the short vowel confusion drill. And this is actually out of order because I should have apple on top. We like to always do it in the same order. Oh, I don't see apple here. So we want to do A, E, I, O, U in order. And that drill, you'll do it until the student has that confusion resolved. And when you go to your progression, so let's go back to the progression. I think it was on page 2 here. On page 2, I introduced the short vowels through that short vowel drill. And it also says I introduced it through the visual and auditory drills through the cards I'm going to show you. And when she gains mastery, so when I tick it off here, then I can take that drill out. So the short vowel drill is only used for as long as it is needed. And then we move on to the phonemic awareness drill. And just let me grab my special box and I will show you my box and all my tools, and we'll spread them out beside the drills so you can see how that works. In order to stay organized, I keep everything in a box. Looks like this. So after I've spread out my papers, I open my box and I get all my manipulatives that go with the drill. So there's my tiles to go with my phonemic awareness drill. And I just found this, the last student brought me some cookies and it was the perfect container to put my tiles in. So I just use this little cookie container to hold the tiles. For the auditory drill and the visual drill, the student is going to have a card pack. Let me just grab that. These are binders from different students, and I open up the binder, and I always keep on the inside folder, I keep their next lesson that's coming up, whatever drills I'm going to do with the student that I've selected, and their card pack, and their sight words as well. So this student has a very small card pack. They're just working on a few. It looks like they're pretty far in the progression here because they're already on the CH. So their visual drill and auditory drill, I would take these cards and I'd put it right here on my table. But for a different student who's at a different part in the progression, whoa, this person has a lot of cards because they're working on the blends. And there's so many blends. It looks like they still have some of the letters from the consonants in here too. Oh yeah, they've got most of their consonants in this one and a few blends. So this person is close to the start of their progression. Oh yeah, look. On this lesson, they're only on lesson 4, so that's why they've got such a big card pack. Yeah, so on my lesson plan, I mark down what cards are going to be in the card pack. And then I just do this. I do this on index cards because it's so expensive if you buy those fancy card packs. And it's so cheap if you do it this way. And because as soon as the student has mastered the basic consonants, these will leave the visual drill and the auditory drill, so I'll just take them out. As soon as they master the vowel sounds, I'll take those out. And they'll be getting more and more blends as I'm teaching them the blends, right? So the card is evolving as the student is mastering the different sounds. And there'll be some times where they only have a few cards in their pack, and there'll be times where they have lots, like this person. Under the blending drill, I will lay out the little cards that I'll use for it, and then I'll just be ready to just quickly move them and have the student tap and read them, or just read them if they've developed that automaticity. And that's how that would be. My special bin here where I keep all my stuff. I call my business the Flying Cat Academy, so I have a little thing that I put on the side so the student knows that we are in session when it's like that, and at the end I let the student turn it around when it's the end. They always like to turn it around when they're done. Other things I keep in my bin, I have a whole bunch of index cards because, you know, you're always making cards for your visual drill and your auditory drill and for your sight words. And when I introduce a new rule, I'll just write it on a card and put it in the student's binder, unless I have a photocopy of a rule card for them. And I'll put one of these in my binder too, so I have the rule. And what else? Extra highlighters and markers in case they run out. I keep koosh balls, and then when I have a live student that I'm not teaching through Zoom or FaceTime, I will do this as a cross the midline kind of exercise to balance the brain. And an extra set of tiles, but I should really take those out because they're not good tiles. And I keep a set of scissors in here too so I can cut up cards if I quickly want to make a syllable card drill. And that's really all there is in there. Oh, just something to sharpen the pencils. And I keep the pencils and a thing of markers in there as well. And that's really my box. I keep these 3 guys in the box as well. And for some students, they just sit right there and that's all they do. For other students, we'll say, which one do you want, student? Okay, so Ben wants this one. That's you, Ben. And it's a nice visual. So when we're doing this, the sight words, he's there. And he moves down the table so Ben can see how the lesson's progressing, and it gives him a sense of time, and in a small way it gives him a sense of control too, because he's part of, you know, he's not worried that this thing is going to go on forever. He's seeing it progress. For other kids, I will use these 3 guys. I'll have pictures of the zones of regulation. Sometimes kids are, you know, they come with different challenges. Some come quite angry because reading something that has really, the instruction reading that they've had has really hurt them, and they have emotional challenges because of it, because they feel like failures and they feel stupid. And so you get a person who's angry and you're asking them to do the thing that makes them angry. So a lot of times, like, I'll put the zones of regulation across the table as well. And you want to teach the student that they want to be in the middle where it's calm, alert, and focused. And I'll take one of these for myself too, and I'll be one of the characters, and often I'll put him on, you know, not being calm, alert, and focused. I'll say I'm a little bit hyper. I run a little high. So the student will kind of compete with me to see who can stay in that calm, alert, and focused zone. And I'll make sure they usually win, because I actually usually am a little bit excited. Did you notice? Yeah. And then the last thing that's manipulative that I'll put on the table is my cookie sheet with my letters. Now, the only thing that's missing is any manipulatives that I'll need for the new section part of the drill. So, for example, I might have a card sort if I'm teaching what is a syllable. I'll have a yes-no card sort that I'd put like right here. And other than that, like, that's how it looks. You won't always need the papers across the top because those are your aids as a teacher. And as you get more familiar with the drills, you'll just know the drills. But these 2, like, I'll always need the sight word one because that's my working document that I use every lesson. And this one we use because we actually need to touch it, right? Yeah, hope that helps. So let's go back to the binder now. I've shown you the progression part, the drills part, the sight word part. And then this part is lesson plans in section 4. So when I make a lesson plan, after the lesson, I will use that plan to create my new lesson. So I said in this one, I said that made some little notes here. She had mastered certain words, so I crossed them out and wrote mastered. And then I said I'm going to add these new sight words that I taught her, each in there. And I was noticing insertion. So that's one of those phonemic awareness things that we do in the phonemic awareness drill, where we're adding one sound. And I noticed that in different things that were coming up in this person's reading and writing, they were also doing insertions, and that was one of the common mistakes that would cause them to trip up. So I'm just going to keep that in my mind for the next, for the future lessons, thinking, is that one of the keys to understanding this person's problems? And then as I'm doing the lesson, I'll be writing notes. And so in this note, I'm saying next week I'm going to teach this person how to summarize while using a reading passage. so that person's going to be working on paragraphs. Very different than some students who, I mean, this is only lesson 4 for the student, whereas some students will be working on writing single words. So this is why the individualized lesson plan is so important, because a person's needs are so unique. This person came in with a reading level of 4.5, yet her writing level is about grade 1. So what her needs are vastly different than someone that came in with a pre-K reading level and a pre-K writing level. The next sections are all the same ones that would be in the student book. So sounds, spelling rules, syllables, reading lists, reading connected, and writing. When I give a sheet to a student, I make a second sheet and put it in this book, so I have a mirror of what the student's book looks like. In the syllable section, I also have a sheet that I gave you guys. And this is just, it's a wonderful resource when I'm looking for, I just need to make a really quick syllable card drill for a student, and I'm looking for words that are closed syllables. All these are closed syllables, and I'm looking for ones that will be specifically good for that student. And I keep all the drills that I make in a separate binder so I can access them easily. But I find that it's really nice to be able to specifically target what you think the person needs. So it's nice to have all these closed syllables just in one spot, so you can easily find 2-syllable or 3-syllable closed syllable words. And then the last part is evaluations, and that's not part of the student book. And that's where I keep the core phonics survey that I did with the student on the first day, and the results. And after I did the survey, I made notes. So I noticed that she says Z instead of Z. I noticed that L and Q are unknown, that she knows the soft sound for C and G, but she might not know the hard sound of G. And I also noticed that she added to every single sound. And so that's something that I really have to work on removing, because it's going to be a big barrier to her spelling. And I'm wondering if maybe O and U are the main sources of her confusion with the vowels. So I just looked at her results on the core phonics survey, and I'm just asking myself questions that will help me to better teach her and better to individualize her program. And that is my teacher binder. The student's notebook is going to be a binder, usually 1.5 inches, and it will contain the following sections: homework, sounds, spelling rules, syllables, reading lists, reading that's connected, writing, and other. The homework section is 1-lined paper, and I just write down what the homework is, and usually it would be something like work on your sight words and read your reading lists. Or if the person is an advanced reader, they've already mastered decoding, then I would add a fluency element to the program, and it might be, their homework might be work on your sight words and do your timed reading once a day and record your times and graph it. For sounds, this is anytime I'm teaching something to do with sounds. So if the person didn't know QU was qua, I would give them a sheet on QU with a little picture of Q and U, and Q is a chicken, and it would be like a visual for them. Or maybe like that's where they would keep their drill for the short vowels. Spelling rules, every time I introduce a new spelling rule, I'll give them a rule, either a rule card or a rule sheet that they can put in their binder. For syllables, this is where we do those sheets that divide the syllables by scooping, and the student will, so fantastic, remember? That's where that'll go. The reading lists are, every day there'll be a reading list that's given, and the reading list will be unique to that lesson. So they'll end up with lots and lots of reading lists in their binder. And every day they'll be reading that's connected. That means sentences that they have to read. And sometimes they'll just be 1 or 2 sentences at the very beginning for some students, whereas other students, like that one student I told you about that had the 4.5 reading level, she's just jumped right into connected text in the Read Naturally program. Writing, I have the students put their, in the writing section of the lesson, there's writing single words and writing sentences. That's where that goes. Other is not used by every student, but if I was going to teach the Handwriting Without Tears program, I would add it to the other section. Sometimes students can have this section as a journal section. It just depends on their individual needs, or it might remain blank for a while. The last thing I wanted to share with you is my last two binders. So I have one binder that holds all of the drills that I've made that go with the closed syllable progression, and I have another binder that holds all the drills that I've made for the other syllable types. And this is one of the key ways that I stay organized, because I have these in order. So I use those page protectors, and I put the drills inside the page protectors, and on this page protector, everything that's in here has to do with syllables, yes or no sorts. Some students will only need to do one drill before they mastered it, and others might need 5. So I have those drills all in there. And then my next section is it a closed syllable? And for this one, I even put drill number 1, so it's the suggested order that I have that I teach these in. And for the drills like this, you don't have to make them individualized, because they're not reading, they're just sorting, right? And then this is a huge one, very big section. It's all the syllable card drills. And this one gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because I always go back to that syllable page that I showed you in my binder, and I'm thinking, what does this student need in the syllable card drill today? And sometimes I'll just go in here and I'll grab one that makes sense. But if I don't have one made that I think matches what the student needs, then I'll just make another one, and in it goes. And lots of times I can just use what I've already created, but every now and then I have to make a new one. And then we go on to the closed syllable exceptions. So the order here is just following the closed syllable progression. Then we teach the sounds of S, and I've got some sorts for that. CH and TCH, the doubling rule, and the schwa. And that's all there is in the closed syllable progression. And then this second binder is all the same kind of stuff that I've created for the other syllable types. And I didn't have any of this when I started. I just had an empty binder and an idea. So you really don't think that you have to make all this stuff in advance. You're gonna make it and then have a little sorting system, and it'll grow as you teach. And after you work with one student, you're gonna have a full set of stuff that you can then use for your next student to some degree. I hope that helps. Thanks.